My guest today is Dr. Laurie Ann Levin, and she has written a meditation journal, and I almost say created one because it's the most unusual book I have ever seen. And in it, of course, she talks about how to live longer, how to strengthen your relationships, and create a healthier life. But the interesting thing about this book, as I was going through it, is it's just chock full of exercises that are going to help you accomplish everything that I just mentioned. And it's divided into three parts: the tree of awakening, the burning bush, and the tree of life. So welcome, Dr. Laurie. And number two, tell us how you created this magnificent journal.
Well, thank you, Dr. Gail. That was quite a lead-in. That's very sweet of you. That's a 15-year endeavor. But for everybody, I saw that there are many, many people that have a very difficult time meditating to great depth of psychological awareness and enlightenment. And the book is cut up in master level, beginner level, or to do it with your partner. Because when one meditates, and I don't want to extol the virtues of meditation too long, but everybody knows now, after many, many years of research, that it lowers your blood pressure and lowers inflammation and helps you sleep better. But what doesn't get talked about is the level of attunement and heightened awareness and the ability to problem solve that becomes beautiful.
Well, it's interesting that you say this because I am one of those people who has a tough time meditating because my mind goes everywhere but probably where it should be, which is nowhere. And so that's why I took this book and I thought, wow, it's probably going to take me 2 years to get through this, doing all of these exercising and really processing everything you have to say in it. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to all of this.
I was a child who had a very difficult childhood, and as that is a gift for fertile internal world when one spends a lot of time alone. And my belief and conversations with the unseen world were stronger than my trust in people. So I'm the reverse of most people, who have normal relations and they find their spirituality. It was the reverse for me. And I didn't see visions, I didn't see ghosts, but I knew things about people, and I wasn't sure how I knew them. And I picked up, may my father rest in peace, I picked up his Playboy at 16 years old because he read it just for the articles, of course. And there was this great interview, of course. There was a great interview with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. Dr. Gail, do you remember who she was?
I absolutely do. Absolutely do.
For the listeners, she gave us our very first clinical model on death and dying. And so, as some people may know, they may not know her name, but they know of any great loss. She gave a clinical model on how we go through these difficult stages of anger, denial, bargaining, depression, acceptance. And she was very, very lauded for her contribution. And she was at the University of Chicago, which was a great medical school. But she, at the time of this interview, was being excommunicated from the medical community because she dared to say that there was life after life. She was bedside to cancer patients who, as they were dying, were calling out names of unseen people in the room. She would check with the families, and they would say, Harry was her husband who died years before. Susan was his daughter who died years before. She started to check with hospice nurses. And what a lot of people also don't know is that Elizabeth had her own near-death experience, which in the study, and this is my posse, the doctors, we study flatlining, people who have enormous recall on lives lived before, or people who have out-of-body experiences, there's a group of doctors that we study actually life after life. And Elizabeth went on, and I thought, wow, maybe that's how I know what I know, that I talk to my ancestors. And then I started to read everything that I could. And subsequently, I went into show business. I did not go down that route, although one could argue that show business is the story of human lives and the story and the art of human lives. But I was extremely successful having this highly intuitive ability. I signed Madonna off of her Lucky Star video before her Like a Virgin tour and her life took off. I signed Michael Keaton off of an episode of Tony Randall, and then he did Beetlejuice and his world took off. I signed Hugh Hudson off of a commercial reel, and then he directed Chariots of Fire and won the Academy Award that year. On and on and on. I signed people before they happened, and I got some notorieties having this incredible eye, but it was really my intuition. And that's what I wanted to say to people about the book is that, you know, I taught a course at UCLA about intuition, and I brought in people who were heads of movie companies and agencies and record companies, and most people, and Dr. Gale, I want to know about you, but most people feel that their intuition, their animal instinct, their gut knowing got them to where they are.
Well, that's true. I mean, I do have a lot of gut feelings, and I do have a lot of intuition. There's no question about that. And, you know, from everything that I've read in terms of meditating, it's really just a matter of being still. And, you know, your mind will go where it goes, and then you bring it back. So it's my, I guess I'm a hard person to just sit down and do nothing, you know, and just be there and be in the present and be in the now and all of that. But I think that what you have created is just amazing. So tell us a little bit about the three separate divisions of the book and how you came to that.
Before I do that, can I speak to what you're going through? Because I think you're emblematic of many, many people, which was why I designed the book and the three sections. But so when anyone tries to sit still and clear their mind, even a yoga pose, unresolved, unconscious gunk, you know, like either past really big traumas from our childhood or a fight you had with your husband about taking out the garbage, which is never why the fight happened. It's never about the garbage. It's about triggering something that was really old from childhood, or, you know, how certain people will bring a bazooka to a water balloon fight, or you freeze in your tracks and you have to go to your room and then get yourself consolidated, and then you can go have a fight. Well, when one stills their mind, all of those past hurts and traumas and difficult internal states will come bubbling up to be addressed. But most people don't know that. So they say, oh, wait, I can't sit still. I'm doing the to-do list. I'm doing, you know, and the to-do list is usually our way of defending against what we don't want to look at, because the doing will take us over, and then we don't have to think about what's really bothering us. So the sitting still reactivates old unconscious material that in fact does need to be looked at. And this book goes beyond mindfulness. It goes beyond the mantras. It really is spiritual psychoanalysis. I ask you penetrating questions, usually taught in parable, and then you go in, you do all the hard work of really asking yourself, you know, what were the unspoken messages in my family of origin? What was the ability to attach and make a commitment in my family of origin? How did I respond to when people would tell me no? And these are questions that you get to really look at yourself and the gift of you. And in that looking, you're actually meditating, because there's a prayer and an invocation that you create for yourself. There's a calling on volitionally that which you want to attain. And in the showing up for yourself, showing up for your expansion, really looking inward and upward to the high part of your brain, you actually are meditating, number one. Number two, excavating to see what needs to be looked at. and 3, enjoying it rather than it being onerous.
Well, I certainly appreciate you saying that because it makes me feel a whole lot better, about how I do this. And I question about this journal. Are you supposed to go through it like from beginning to end, or do you go somewhere in the middle, or do you just open a page? I mean, how do you want people to go through this wonderful piece of literature that you have?
See, I told you were intuitive. Everything you said, whatever, some people like to shake it up, and some people like to be linear, and some people like to close their eyes and go, okay, what do you want to tell me now? And open the book and point their finger and go, what? That's the line. That's what I needed to hear. So all of the above. It was designed in the following fashion, but I knew that people would approach it every which way. It was designed that you do a chapter a week. You could do it by yourself. You could do it with your book club. You could do it with your best friend. You could do it with a romantic partner, so that the customization, there's little paragraphs on what to do in this chapter if you are doing it with somebody, what to do if you are doing it alone, how to approach it if you're doing it, with a group. And do you remember, Dr. Gail, are you old enough to remember The Artist's Way?
Oh, yes. As a matter of fact, yeah, I do. And as a matter of fact, one of the women's groups I was involved with, there's a woman in there who teaches that and who takes people through it. I've never been in a situation where I could do that because of my schedule and my travels, but yes, I have.
This is similar, where you could do, it's a very, very sacred, intimate, almost like group therapy where the rules have to be set up front. But in sharing it and witnessing it with somebody, to go through that and share, oh my God, that's what was in your family. Well, this was what was in my family. It becomes incredibly bonding and you get more out of it. But it was designed that you stick it by your bed, and every morning or every night you do, once a week, you do a chapter. So let's say, you have little kids, you would most likely do it at night. If you're in, Sunday morning, if you don't have the children running around, you could do it Sunday morning with your partner in bed, or you could do it with your book club. But it's an investment of, I thought, 1 chapter a week over a year. Because over that year, things come up like, oh my God, my mother died on March 17th, and March 17th has been really hard for me. And, things come up over a year where there's anniversaries or reckonings with things that have been traumatic in your life. And so it's nice to do it over the year.
That's very interesting. It's nice to know, because some people, when they pick up any book, let alone something like this, they want to kind of go through it from beginning to end. And as I was reading through this, because I wanted to get a feeling of what the whole thing was, I thought, man, this is not something you do like that. This is going to take some time. So I'm glad to know that I had the appropriate reaction to it. So tell me, what are some of the comments that you've gotten regarding it? What's some of the feedback people have told you about it?
Well, I taught it for over a year to women who were extremely, and my husband has done it as a man, so I know intimately his feedback. Hardcore businessman, type A personality, can't sit still, high octane, and his daughter just told me, who's my stepdaughter, but she said, oh my God, Laurie, I really attribute you and what you've taught my father. He really knows what's important. Like, he's always been a sweet, good listener, but he really isn't caught up with all of the stuff that he used to be caught up with. I really feel him being present with me and loving me, and it's very deep, and I want to thank you. And it brought tears to my eyes. So that's a very personal sharing. With the other women, one was a doctor, an anesthesiologist, who was very logical yet emotional. The other one woman